Welcome back to 15th Street Automotive. This morning we're looking at a 2011 Buick Regal. Customer states there's a check engine light, and then after about 20 minutes of driving they will lose power, they get some stability lights on. So we're going to have to put some miles on this thing before we experience the problem. But we'll scan it for codes, get a direction, and then we'll go from there. Bunch of codes in there. Let's see, we got a heated oxygen sensor delayed response, fuel trim system rich, fuel rail pressure sensor performance, that'll cause our lack of power, and evap leak, fuel rail pressure sensor performance. The evap is going to be its own thing. It's a small leak detected. That's not going to necessarily be our problem, although we'll probably have to investigate that. The fuel rail pressure sensor is definitely one we want to go look at. Thing's running really good right now, so let's escape out of here, go to live data. I want to look at that rail pressure. Fuel pressure sensor. So that would be the low. This would be the low pressure. This would be the rail pressure. That's the commanded rail pressure. Let's look at those and go drive it. So the green and the red are probably on the same line right there because they're matchy. The blue is the low pressure rail. So let's go drive it with that. And we'll see what that rail pressure does on an extended test drive. There you can see that separation between the desired and the actual. I'm not sure what the computer's looking for in a discrepancy on that. We'll look that up here in a second. But those numbers should be locked together. And if we look closer at those numbers, the actual is 870 and the desired, so the desired drops way down. So now they're locked together again. So there is a pretty big discrepancy on that the actual to desired. That could be a sensor problem, it could be a regulator problem. See, with it just sitting here idling like this, it's they're locked together just the way they're supposed to be. It's at a light cruise is where I start seeing the problem on it. Low side pressure stays right where I want it. See there, they separate again, and then they come back together. Well, that's a 200 psi discrepancy there. So on decel is when I see the biggest discrepancy. So I'm decelling now, and I'm coming to a stop. Seems like it's every time on a decel I get that big jump. That's a 600 psi discrepancy between the actual and the desired. So definitely a problem. Let's go back and read how that system works, figure out what sets that code, and nail this thing down. So I just looked up the code criteria for that P0191 fuel rail pressure sensor performance code, and there's 3 conditions that can cause that code to set, and this thing fails on all 3 of those conditions. I think one of them was in certain conditions should be within 435 psi. Other conditions it's 131 psi difference, and then the 3rd condition, I think it was during certain conditions it needs to be within 14. Well, this thing gets up to be like 600 or 700 psi difference. What we need to figure out now is is the pressure actually going as high as it says it is, or is it a sensor failing? So we're going to retest drive this thing. We're going to watch for the fuel pressure to go up on the sensor reading, and we're going to bounce that off and see if maybe the fuel trims show a rich condition as well. If it shows a rich condition, then we know that we're actually getting fuel pressure to go up, and it's going to be probably going to end up being a high pressure fuel pump. If when it reads super high, it's not actually getting rich, then we probably just have a sensor problem. They're both pretty common problems on these things. But that reading going high, and the fact that we have a rich condition code kind of tells me that we have a problem with the pump. Probably the solenoid in the pump is sticking on when it shouldn't. What this computer on this vehicle does, when you are driving and you come up to a decel, the computer will turn that pump to 0 psi desired. Basically, it's looking for that high side fuel pressure to come equal with the low side fuel pressure. That's how it knows everything is working the way it's supposed to. If it can't come to that 0 or that low fuel pressure reading, they don't equalize. If it drops below or stays above, then it can set a fault for whichever condition, whether it's low pressure, high pressure, whatever. So we're gonna go road test this thing one more time. We're gonna monitor desired fuel rail, actual fuel rail, and I want to find a fuel trim PID so I can see that it is actually going high, which is what I suspect. If that's the case, we are going to sell this person a high pressure fuel pump. That's going to explain our rich code. It's probably also going to explain our oxygen sensor code, because if it's running rich, it's going to stick on that high, stick on the high oxygen sensor reading. So I suspect the fix for the P0191 code is also going to be our fix for 2 or 3 of the other codes. Once we get that diagnosed, then we got to get in and look at the code for the evap leak. Completely different diagnosis, but we'll get into that after we diagnose this one. Alright, so I'm just sitting here running in the bay here, and you can look at my fuel trims. It's taken away 41%, so it's pig rich right now. We can't look at fuel trims and the desired fuel pressure at the same time, so that kind of sucks. They don't give us that option on this menu. So on this screen here, we're looking at short term and long term is the dark green and red. You can see that our long term in the red graph is taking away negative 47%. But the blue is our bank 1 oxygen sensor. It's switching nicely, so the oxygen sensor is perfectly happy taking away 47%. So we've got an overfueling problem that the computer is compensating for with that long-term fuel trim taking away a lot. So I suspect our problem is not a sensor. If it was a sensor and it was taking away 47%, then our oxygen sensor would be in the basement. So our oxygen sensor is happy taking away negative 47%. That means it's actually 47% rich. So we're going to start leaning towards a pump problem, possibly a stuck solenoid in that high pressure pump. That would explain why our actual fuel pressure lags so much farther behind the desired. Now on these high pressure fuel pumps, you got to get a GM one, and you need to do the install procedure just the way they say. Otherwise you can damage a GM pump, and the aftermarket pumps they don't typically give you a successful fix. So I'm gonna go see if I can't find some more data PIDs for this long-term fuel trim, and I want to see desired fuel rail pressure with actual fuel rail pressure. I want to see those 3 PIDs on the screen at once and test drive it, and that'll tell me for sure that we've got a solenoid problem and not a sensor problem.